Tonight's topic is The Barbarian Menace by John Campbell. This editorial by the late John Campbell may be the most important one in all my works. It addresses itself to most of you and should help you sort out a lot of the conflicts we barbarians have concerning our place in society. John Campbell was a citizen type, a trained scientist and a major contributor to the field of science fiction. This editorial was taken from the August 1964 edition of Analog. As a citizen type, although John had Barbarian sized up more accurately than any writer I've read, he was biased. He lumped para, average, and sub-barbarians all in the same category. Nor did he see the necessity for the para-barbarian in the transition from our foundering civilization of today to the cold and strong civilization of tomorrow. My next editorial will put you in the picture. Now, this is John Campbell's editorial, not mine. A few months back, I discussed here the effect that marching, counter-marching, and round marching barbarian armies had had on human history. They provided mankind with one of those great educational opportunities, education on the learn-or-drop-dead basis. This educational technique does not, of course, help the individual greatly, nor is it ever popular with the educatee, his group, or his descendants. But education is a very strange thing. Everybody wants to have one, but the resistance to getting one, or having one forced upon you, is remarkable, considering how highly the thing is regarded. Practically everyone is certain that more education is just what the other guy needs to be given. But the wish for personal education is almost invariably of the form, I wish I had had. The pluperfect tense, not the present intentional, or the immediate future tense. It's much more popular to sigh about the fact that education didn't happen years ago than to do something about getting it now. Education is something everyone wants in his past and is resisted from stubbornly to violently in the present. I haven't the time now is the standard excuse. Neither does a 10-year-old. Just ask him. He has all those baseball games to play and the fishing to attend to and a great many other important things that he needs to do. It's only that he's enslaved by adult taskmasters that forces him to acquire what he doesn't want. One of the commonest definitions of slavery is being forced to labor at tasks not of your own choosing, under threat of physical punishment, while being unable to escape. If the slave escapes, he will be arrested and forcibly returned to his master. The child is enslaved. While people look back on those horrid, awful, wicked times with loathing, they are enjoying the benefits conferred on us by those barbarian tactics. The barbarian armies culled out those individuals who could not learn, who did not have the flexibility that made possible a reorientation in adult life. Any cub, pup, or child can learn a new way of life. They obviously have to, for any way of life is new to them. The far more difficult thing is to learn a different way of life after you've learned one, for the old dog to learn new tricks, for the individual brought up as a Christian to be able to learn the new set of values the Muslim army insists on, or for the brought-up Muslim individual to learn the value system of the Crusaders with swords. This is, of course, a highly effective selective breeding system. Whether the barbarian army so intended it makes no difference whatever. It's selectively bred for the characteristic of educability and flexibility. In the descendants of the conquered peoples, and inasmuch as no people ever remained permanently unconquered, every group in the marching barbarian army system was repeatedly in the class conquered, often and long enough to be repeatedly and thoroughly culled over for elimination of the uneducable. Please note carefully, I'm not saying this is the way it should be, this is what I recommend. I'm saying this is in fact what observably happened. We hear a lot of yak about behavior characteristics, mental and psychological characteristics, not being genetically heritable. This is absolute and completely stupid nonsense. Watch the courting patterns of various birds, for instance, or the behavior of salmon in returning to their native stream, the migration patterns of hummingbirds, or the nest-making patterns of the paper-making wasp. Each displays very specifically inherited behavior patterns, not merely physiological patterns. In bees, there is an additional inherited pattern system demonstrated. A given fertile egg can be developed into a sexless worker if fed in one way, or into a queen if fed a different diet. Here, both physiological and behavioral patterns are seemingly determined by the diet. Obviously, they're not. The diet doesn't carry that much information. It's a lot closer to having a record that played one side up to produce the pattern "The Pines of Rome," while played the other side up displays the sound pattern of Hungarian Rhapsody. There is in the bee egg a dual potential, which potential is developed into activity, can be influenced, but the potential itself is genetically determined. What we need at this point is a somewhat more precise meaning of the term barbarian. The origin of the term stems from the old Greek conviction that anyone who didn't speak Hellenistic Greek was less than human, that the aliens didn't really speak any more than dogs or chickens did. They just made mouth noises like bar, 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 and were called barbarians. So the original meaning of the term was simply somebody who doesn't speak Hellenistic Greek. This means the world today is populated entirely by barbarians. Later it meant any people whose culture and ways of life I disapprove of. That is, anyone who doesn't live the only right way, my way. That's a very minor modification of the Greek meaning. It did, however, allow that someone who spoke perfect Greek could be a barbarian. This meant that, as any Athenian could clearly recognize, Spartans were barbarians, even though they did speak Greek. To a very large extent, the term barbarian is used today in precisely that way. It has no precise meaning and is solely a term of disparagement, a term of insult. I want to make a precise definition of the term, one that will make it useful in discussion, which no vague variable referent term can be. Let me hasten to point out that vague variable referent terms can be extremely satisfying in discussion. They simply aren't useful. That is, if we have barbarian as a vague variable referent term meaning someone whose manners, customs, appearance, language, or values I dislike because they are unlike mine, then if I say I don't like that man and you ask me why, I can with satisfying sense of conviction and completion say because he's a barbarian. This is very satisfying. It gives one the impression he has said something meaningful in explanation of his dislike, that he has made a profound and definitive statement. It's satisfying. It's also perfectly circular. I don't like him because he acts in a way I dislike. Let's try something more definitive and cultural. Use actual observable behavior characteristics as describing the barbarian. Animal species can be defined in terms of behavior characteristics as well as in terms of physiology. So can human types. Some animals are carnivorous. Some, although perfectly capable of digesting meat, never eat it. These behavioral characteristics are perfectly definable and observable. First, there is the tribal type, the earliest human cultural evolution. The term savage can be reserved for the pre-cultural level, the level when humanoids wandered about in family groupings, as do chimpanzees and gorillas today. The tribal type evolved through the evolution of tribal cultures. The human type and the cultural structure were, of course, co-evolving as a feedback interacting system. The resultant human type is characterized by rejection of creativity and by complete rejection of personal responsibility. The tribal rituals determine all right living ways. He is not responsible for anything so long as he follows the commands of the tribal rituals. He accepts external command and is rewarded with security. If he obeys the tribal rituals, the tribe will defend and protect him. The tribal type readily accepts slavery. The master simply replaces the tribal rituals. The master now gives the commands which the slave, better actually is the term serf, obeys faithfully, and the master rewards the tribal individual with security, freedom from responsibility, and the benefits accruing from sharing the higher standard of living that wiser master can produce. In tribal culture, the cultural system is wiser than the individuals, and precisely that situation above described results. The tribesmen don't know why the rituals are what they are, nor do they feel they need to understand. They need only to carry out the orders of traditions, and they will benefit from the greater wisdom of the ages. The second major stage of cultural evolution came with the rise of the barbarian. The primary change came in the fact that the barbarian accepted personal responsibility. The consequences of that are very complex, very interesting, and pure dynamite culturally. Since he takes personal responsibility, he won't take orders. He won't obey the rituals. If he does something somebody else tells him to, he does it not because he's ordered to, but because he believes himself that doing it is a good idea. With the rise of personal responsibility came, as an obvious consequence, what we know as honor, personal honor. A tribesman doesn't have personal honor because he doesn't have personal responsibility. Breaking tribal taboos is evil, sinful, not dishonorable. Every organism must seek survival of its type. If it doesn't, it is of no importance whatever in the scheme of things, for it's not long for this world if it doesn't seek survival. Security is a generalized term, essentially meaning simply a sense that survival is assured. Where the tribal type found security in the ancient stable wisdom of the rituals, or finds it in a master who orders him and takes responsibility for him, the barbarian is his own source of security. Actually, of course, a sense of security has nothing whatever to do with actual safety. For example, there's nothing like a good solid lethal dose of morphine to make a man's worries and fears ease away. A cat might well curl up comfortably on a nice warm mass of radioactive matter, thermally content while the gamma radiation tore it to pieces. The barbarian takes personal responsibility, and his security lies in the absolute, unshakable certainty that he is right, wise, and capable. This makes it exceedingly difficult to teach him a damn thing. Since he's already right, obviously he has nothing to learn, and if he isn't right, you've just destroyed his sense of security. To accept that insecurity means to him that he is lost without direction, without a way to recover himself. He has a strong sense of personal responsibility, but no great sense of responsibility for others. Fellow barbarians not only don't ask him to take care of them, they'll damn well kill him if he tries to take them over. And you cannot be responsible for something or someone you have no control over. The barbarian type evolved and evolved civilizations. They demean the tribal type, those cowardly subhuman slaves who will take orders from another man. They know that they, and only they, are right and wise. Characteristically, the barbarian cannot work for a living. It's psychologically impossible for him. He can and will fight for something he wants. That's honorable. Any form or variation of fighting is good, honorable, and manly. He can fight with swords, spears, or machine guns, or with arguments or schemes and plots. He can get what he wants by threats, blackmail, extortion, or gifts, which he considers a form of extortion. Obviously, the giver feared him and his power. He can plot, scheme, and labor at a plan to gain his ends, but he cannot work for it. He can risk life, health, or crippling labor 20 hours a day for weeks digging a tunnel to penetrate to someone else's treasure house. That is honorable, manly, tolerable, because it's a form of fighting. But he can't work in a mine to dig out gold from nature's storehouse. That's unmanly, demeaning work. Work is what slaves and women do. An honorable man can hunt, fight, and plot, but not work for economic productive ends. Only slaves and women do that. The European nobility, until relatively recently, held precisely that attitude. It was demeaning and dishonorable for a nobleman to engage in trade, in other words, to do anything economically productive. The American Indians, when white men first arrived in the United States area, were true barbarians. They did not and could not work for a living. The colonists confused them acutely because they worked for a living, and a few preliminary skirmishes established very definitely that the colonists were not cowardly weaklings, not the demeaned slave type. The colonists, however, found that the North American Indians could not be enslaved. The Spanish tried it and were murdered for their pains. In the Mexican to Chilean areas, the Indians had advanced to the third stage of cultural evolution, the citizen stage, and could be enslaved, because a citizen can work for a living and be creative and be responsible for himself. So the primary characteristics of the barbarian are that he is intransigently sure of his unarguable rightness, and that he cannot work for a living but can only fight in one variant form or another for what he wants. The third level of cultural evolution so far is the citizen. He differs from the barbarian thanks largely to the barbarian's millennia of tutelage in how to learn a new way of life or die. The citizen is marked by a flexibility of thought, of value systems, and of learning processes that the barbarian doesn't have. The citizen can work for a living. He can be economically productive. The barbarian can be an artist or an armorer, incidentally, but not, for example, a farmer, a machinist, or a chemist. The artist is expressing his own opinion. The armorer is making the sword he plans to use. The citizen is able to consider and evaluate someone else's ideas as well as his own. He not only has a sense of responsibility for himself, but feels responsible also for others. And the citizen is the first level of humanoid that has been able to live with a sense of insecurity. He can think and not be sure his thinking is necessarily right. This is what makes it possible for even an adult citizen to learn an entirely new way of life, even one he does not want. Now comes the truly important problem, the true menace of the barbarian today. The barbarian is not adaptable, has no sense of responsibility for anyone else, and wants to fight, not work for a living. A barbarian is not necessarily a stupid lot by any means. That behavior pattern can apply to any individual without distinction as to race, creed, color, or IQ. The barbarian can be enormously intelligent and still be a barbarian, as specifically defined by the behavior pattern given above. Perhaps the all-time high example of a true high-intelligence barbarian was Socrates. That may sound outrageous, but run it over for data. Socrates would not work for a living. His wife and children got along as best they could, for he had very small sense of responsibility toward others. A man can talk a fine game and not be able to play it at all. I learned a lot about the fundamental nature of ethics, morality, and honesty from a man who's an amoral psychopath. He could consider these matters with a degree of objective detachment I hope never to achieve. Socrates could fight endlessly, argumentatively, or as a warrior against Sparta, but he did not engage in any economically productive activity except bumming from his friends. He was intransigently and unshakably certain he was right. He had a demon who told him when he was right. Socrates showed every characteristic of the true barbarian personality pattern, and the fact that he was enormously intelligent has nothing to do with that fact. On the other hand, Aesop, who was a slave, showed the pattern of the true citizen. He was highly intelligent also, but that is a completely independent variable. Citizens can be low-grade morons or ultra-high geniuses. Aesop, however, could adopt many viewpoints, many value systems, as he did in his fables, and he could accept slavery and still remain mentally sound and accomplish things. The barbarian is the greatest menace to civilization today because he is inside, not outside the culture. The barbarian can be intelligent, can plot and manipulate with immense skill and utter self-centered trickiness. He has a strong sense of personal honor, which includes the honorableness of being too tricky for your opponents to trap. The barbarian's sense of honor is powerfully dominant over his actions. He will kill himself for honor, but it doesn't happen to include honesty as a part of honor. Honor to him is achieving a high standard of living by fighting for it. Honor is for a living. This may be a very subtle point to an outsider. Socrates would have been able to teach at a university without considering that he was demeaning himself by working, but he wouldn't have been able to accept a job with a corporation as a mathematician. A shyster lawyer can be a barbarian. Typically, to him, the law is a system of strings with which to weave traps for others. The menace arises from this factor. He has a sense of honor, but no sense of ethics, and no adaptability. The citizen is the type that builds civilization, the type that can work productively, can adapt his views so that he can integrate and work with others who have different viewpoints, different ways of life, different value systems. The citizen can adapt. The barbarian can't adapt. When citizen and barbarian come into conflict within a culture, it is inevitable that the citizen will tend to adapt to the barbarian because he alone of the two can adapt. The citizen will learn barbarian manners from the barbarian. The barbarian will learn nothing from the citizen. But the barbarian will learn how to defeat his enemies, the citizens. He'll learn how they can be tricked, cozened, argued into corners, and conned into nonsense. He who doesn't have any sense of responsibility for others will keep assuring the citizen that he must feel responsible for others. The barbarian won't work and will insist to the citizen that citizens should feel responsible for the unemployed barbarian and should support him in the style he'd like to become accustomed to. Hitler was a barbarian. The Anglo-French leaders were citizens and were conned into giving up Czechoslovakia in 1938. However, Churchill was a citizen too, and when a citizen refuses to be conned, recognizes the barbarian as inherently incapable of productive effort, cooperation, or adaptation, the citizen's greater range of abilities can fairly surely destroy him. The barbarian wants to fight for a living. He likes life only in those terms. The citizen is a past master barbarian. He's gone through that stage. He can fight if he realizes that that is the necessary answer to the intransigent, self-centered, honorable but dishonest barbarian. The great menace of the barbarian is that the citizen can adapt to the barbarian, and civilization, which depends on citizens, disintegrates shortly afterwards. The tribal type a civilization can use. The tribal patterns individual will work honestly and faithfully. He is not creative. He seeks the security of routine and tradition. But remember, these personality pattern types have no correlation whatever with intelligence, race, color, creed, or physical shape, because they are individual characteristics. Race does enter, but solely on a statistical basis. Cultural evolution, remember, acts as a selective breeding mechanism and produces a strong selection of statistics in the resultant group. One can find a pure tribal pattern individual with an IQ of 175, a professor at a university where he is patiently, faithfully, and competently carrying on the highly intellectual traditions of his scholarly field. He's still a tribal type, however intellectual a tribesman he may be. He will have the virtues of loyalty, honesty, and patience, but will be entirely non-creative and will oppose all suggestions of change in the traditions and rituals of the university or the field he's engaged in. Or the highly intelligent tribesman type may be a chemist doing quality control analysis, checking to see that the company product does in fact meet ASTM standards test number 237-B2 or the relevant MIL specs. Here his inherent lack of creativity is one of the highly desirable features of his nature. When a man is supposed to check something against an established standard test, originality, creativity, and ingenuity are the last things wanted. The new, shorter, and easier test he invents may be wonderful, but it is not ASTM standards test number 237-B-2, which is what the contract calls for. A citizen could do the quality control job because he can appreciate the necessity of the non-creative viewpoint and adapt to it. He'll be uncomfortable, though, because in such work he'd be using less than his full potential. The one who absolutely cannot carry out the job would be the barbarian personality. Being rigidly limited by someone else's orders is dishonorable. It's intolerable. He will break out because he can't work that way. The menace of the barbarian lies in his intransigence, coupled with high intelligence, argumentative persuasiveness, and pleasure in fighting. The citizen, because he is adaptable, will gradually adapt to the barbarian's intransigent demands, because the citizen cannot continually fight off the barbarian and accomplish the productive things the citizen yearns to achieve. The citizen fights only to accomplish. The barbarian fights to enjoy the fight and to win. In argument, the citizen seeks to find the truth. The barbarian seeks only to win. The barbarian has an intense sense of honor and neither honesty nor truthfulness, morality nor ethics. But he will call upon the citizen to be moral, ethical, honest, and truthful continually. The barbarian well knows that the best weapon to use is one that can hurt your opponent but which cannot touch you. Until the citizen realizes that self-defense is not only an ethical right but also an ethical duty, he will yield to the barbarian simply because he can adapt. The simplest sign of barbarism is the characteristics that they will demand on moral ethical grounds that they be given something they claim as rights, but will not accept that it must be earned, must be worked for. They will threaten to fight for it and will fight for what they want, but will not work productively to earn it. The essence of the barbarian approach was boiled down very neatly in Hitler's cry of guns before butter. Guns are to fight with. Butter is fuel for hard work. Okay, here I am again, Kurt Saxon. The phone number is 501-437-2963. The frequency is 5.810 megahertz, in case you just wandered on. And the mailing address is P.O. Box 95, Alpena, Arkansas 72611. That's for the introductory packet, which you get the oh my goodness, sorry, U.S. Militia, and the sample copy of Shoestring Entrepreneur, and the David Koresh Last Testament. For $10, you get all of that, and you get $5 off on either of the subscriptions. Well, now, I was away for 2 days, and luckily my engineer carried on fantastically for me. And I was in Chicago at the Jerry Springer Show, and I don't know when it's going to be aired. Well, what they do is they tape it, and then they syndicate it, and so different regions play it at different times. But if you'd like to watch it, and it was one of the better shows, naturally, it has to do with a burglar coming in a man's house and the man shooting him in the back as he tried to run away. And then the burglar got 14 years in prison, but from the prison he sued the man, and he won $12,000. And so the Jerry Springer Show was about that. And of course, I was on the side of the man who shot the burglar, and everybody else was too, surprisingly. But of course, now the burglar was white, and now also another thing is that I sort of lost my train of thought there. But anyway, I'll call up the station tomorrow, and I'll see when it will be on for this area, because they know that. And what you might do is, if you get the Jerry Springer Show in your area, just turn it on, and if in the first minute or two it tells about the burglary segment, then that's the one I'm going to be on. So I'm still waiting for your calls. The phone number is 501-437-2963, and the mailing address is P.O. Box 95, Alpena, Arkansas, 72611. Now, oops, here's a call. Hello, Kurt here.
Good evening, Kurt. How are you?
Fine.
It's Rob from New Jersey. How are you?
Fine.
Hey, I wanted to talk to you about I guess it was it Friday night you did the thing on abortion?
Mm-hmm.
And I have to say, I'm mostly...
That was Thursday night. Friday night got knocked off the air because of the storm in Nashville.
Yes. And I'm mostly sympathetic to your views, but just as someone living here in the East, who's very media conscious, I listen to your show every night,
mm-hmm.
and I just think that type of material is very detrimental to your program.
Why?
I think you'd alienate a lot of your core audience.
Well, now, do you know many people on radio or TV that would put on something that would alienate their audience? You see, as far as I'm concerned, I put on something that I figure is factual and lucid and makes a point.
Yes.
See, everybody else, all they want to do is sell you stuff.
Oh, they're just doing it for the ratings.
Yes.
Oh,
okay.
I couldn't agree with you more. It's just that my only concern is that that your show might get pulled for such content.
No, it wouldn't get pulled.
Oh, okay.
No problem there at all. Besides, I'm not going to harp on the subject. I've said my say, and that's it.
Well, hey.
Now, if anybody wants to make a comment on it, fine.
No.
But it's not going to be something that... See, this isn't a religious program. It has nothing to do with abortion.
No.
So the subject came up, and so I did the talk on it, see.
Okay.
But don't worry, I'm not going to get taken off the air, and I certainly appreciate your concern. How did you like Kerry?
Oh, good man.
Good. He is a good man.
Yes, indeed. My only other question, Kurt, it's been about 6 weeks since I sent for the packet.
And you don't have it yet?
No.
Okay, you send a postcard, and we will send you another packet at no extra charge. Because obviously, if it's been 6 weeks, it got lost in the mail, because all kinds of bad things have happened because of this weather.
No, I understand, and I'm in business. I have to send stuff through the mail, and
yeah.
I have customers of mine looking for advertising reimbursement and all other types of things that were mailed out in January that they haven't received. But if that's all I have to do is send a postcard, I'll send that out to you.
Well, we need a postcard because I don't want you to give your name and address on the air. And see, when we get your postcard, we'll just look it up in the file. We got your order, no problem. You didn't get it. It's been too long. It should have gotten there.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Kurt.
Okay.
That's a good work.
Okay, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, here I am. Phone number is 501-437-2963. The mailing address is P.O. Box 95, Alpena, Arkansas 72611. And the frequency is 5.810 megahertz. And if you'd like to buy any of these tapes, just write to Jeffrey's Audio. I'll get back to that later. Hello, Kurt here.
Hi, Kurt. This is Andy in Detroit.
Hi, Andy.
I really enjoyed that your editorial there, or the editorial of Campbell.
Yes.
That was very interesting.
Well, I've got a good rebuttal. He did make a lot of wonderful points, but of course, I don't see it completely his way. I think you'll get a kick out of the way I see it, because I am a barbarian, and I'm not a liar or a thief. I don't con people out of things. He was just, I think he just met a couple of barbarians that stole his car or something. There are them kind. Yes, I agree. I agree with everything he said, but he just made it a blanket thing.
Well, his editorial there, it reminded me a lot of Ayn Rand's essay.
Oh, yes.
For the New Intellectual.
Yes.
Because, well, she cast the barbarian as, the barbarian and the witch doctor as being the predator, the looter, on the productive and the sheep.
Yes. Well, you see, that the witch doctor is a barbarian, but he preys on the sheep. He takes it from the tribesmen.
Yeah, well, we hear a lot of those out there.
Oh, yes, we do.
Hey, there's an interesting lecture going to be given in a couple of weeks. I wonder if I can give the info off on the air for people in the Washington, D.C., Maryland area.
Oh, please do.
Okay. It's going to be on Sunday, February 27th at 4:30 p.m. at Tales Retold Bookstore, 939 Bonifant Street, Springfield, Maryland.
Yes.
And
what's it going to be about?
It'll be about alternative economics, alternative political systems. I think that's something that we should, consider.
Okay, quick, give it again. It's too local to give out over the air, but I'll do it anyway because we're best friends.
Well, they've got, if people want to call the bookstore up, they got a phone number.
Okay, give the phone number twice, then let people call. Forget the address.
Okay, 301-588-1933. That's 301-588-1933.
And that's the Virginia area?
It's in Maryland.
Oh, Maryland, I'm sorry.
Maryland. It's near Washington, D.C.
Okay, I've been in that area.
Okay. All right, Kurt. Oh, by the way, last night somebody gave out a phone number to a company that had Lee Enfield rifles.
Yes.
I was wondering if your substitute there might have that phone number handy.
Well, he's rummaging for it.
I can hear the paper.
Yes. Well, that's, talk about something else quick. And oh, I think he's got it. You got it? Nope, he still doesn't have it. He's pouting.
One of the people that's putting out this fellow by the name Radio Werewolf. Have you ever heard of him?
Never heard of him. Never heard of it.
I'll send you some of his material. It's funny.
Okay. Okay, I've got the telephone is 802-527-1252. That's 802-527-1252.
Okay, great. All right, thanks a lot, Kurt.
You're very welcome. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.
Okay, now for these tapes, they're $6 a piece or $25 for a week's shows postpaid. It's Jeffrey's Audio, P.O. Box 326, Alpena, Arkansas 72611. That's Box 326, Alpena, Arkansas 72611. Okay, and my phone number is 501-437-2963. Hello, Kurt here.
Hi, Kurt. This is Lou from Ohio. How you doing?
Doing fine, Lou.
Hey, I sent you that radio out. Did you get to take a look at it?
We did, and Carrie thinks it's pretty good. I just got back a few hours ago.
Uh-huh.
from Chicago, and we're going to discuss it more. Now, did you want to plug it over the air so that people might send you money for it?
Sure. And you can go ahead and give it a review.
Well, why don't I let Kerry sit in just a minute and tell what he thinks of it?
Oh, okay.
Well, I've been playing with it for the last 2-3 days, and it's almost as sensitive as the $200 number that Kurt got from Radio Shack.
Oh, yeah, we tested it. That should be the DX440, maybe?
Right. It looks like the identical model that DAC has manufactured for him, is it?
Well, what happened is the company that I'm licensed to sell this through, they're the manufacturers over in China. And what happened, they used to make that radio for DAC. And if you remember, if you have an old DAC radio, you can check the frequencies. The old DAC radio doesn't get the range of frequencies this one does.
Oh, that's great. I haven't put an external antenna on it, but I was dumbfounded at the sensitivity that this little $50 radio had.
Oh yeah, it's really you can't beat it. Plus it has the timing features on it, which if they want to tape Kurt's show, they can hook it up to either a voice-activated tape recorder or get a regular tape recorder and hook that up to a timer and just set the time right on the radio, and it'll turn on automatic.
Okay, I'm going to give you back to Kurt, and why don't you give the folks your name and address where they can order, because I highly recommend it.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, give us the name and address.
Okay, that's Electronic Information Systems, or they could just put EIS Company.
Good, EIS Company.
P.O. Box 2415, and that's in Youngstown, Youngstown.
Okay, give the P.O. Box and the Youngstown, and everybody get your pencils, because this is a nice little radio for about as cheap as you can possibly get a good shortwave radio.
Okay, that's EIS Company, P.O. Box 2415. That's in Youngstown. That's spelled Youngstown, Ohio. The zip is 44509, and the price is $49.95 plus $3.50 shipping. And what you could do is, when you get the radio, or even if you want to go ahead and look, Radio Shack has a similar radio which has the same features. It's the DX370. Now they have a new one replacing that radio, which is the DX375, and on the new one they have eliminated, from what I have seen, the timer feature on it. So it doesn't have a timer to turn on when you want to tape a show, but ours does, and it's all digital controlled shortwave. There's a 7-day money-back guarantee. If you don't like it, send it back. We'll send you your money back. And there's also a 2-year warranty on it. So if it breaks, you can send it back to the importer, and he'll send you another one.
Good.
Can't beat it.
Okay.
Okay, Kurt. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, the phone number again is 501-437-2963. The mailing address is P.O. Box 95, Alpena, Arkansas, 72611. And send in $10 for the information packet comprising U.S. Militia, the only magazine on community defense, Shoestring Entrepreneur, how to sell anything you can make or grow and get into business no matter what situation or how much money you got, and David Koresh's Last Testament. Hello, Kurt Saxon here.
This is Jeffrey Dyken in New Orleans. I was listening to your article tonight, and I find myself in thorough disagreement with what you've said on 4 grounds.
Good.
First of all, life is a process of self-sustaining, self-generated, thought-controlled action, not a process of being dependent on others. Under such conditions, to claim that a person who works for himself, even when he takes orders, is or has aspects of barbarianism is absolutely wrong.
No, he said that would be tribalism.
Yeah, well, that's wrong. Because in the first place...
Well, now, wait, what are you... You said barbarism. The barbarian won't work at least not for very long. The tribalist will work all his life.
Well, you tell that to the Apache Indians.
Well, the Apache Indians, from the ones that I met, were barbarians.
Yeah, well, so...
I met a lot of them, and I like them. They're my kind of people.
Mm-hmm. Well, I would say so were the Vandals, and so were the Goths who sacked Rome.
Yes, they were. They were barbarians.
That's right. They were destroyers of anything that was civilized.
That's right. Well, they preyed on tribalists.
Right. But they did observe tribal rituals in and of themselves as well.
Well, yes, they have to have some control so that they know what to do, that they know which direction to run.
But we're
talking, see, this is a general thing. I should say that everyone has a touch of savagery, tribalism, citizen, and barbarism, but it's only when it's predominant that we label them.
Well, the problem with what you say about citizens...
Well, now, I didn't say that. John Campbell did.
Well,
see, that's
I'll go
John
back to
Campbell's
statement then.
Yes, okay.
The problem with what Mr. Campbell says is that, as I said, since a person actually works for himself in the first place and has to think for himself in order to survive, that therefore selfishness is in fact a virtue, not a vice.
Well, I don't think John figured so much that the tribalist worked for himself. Now, the citizen works for himself. The tribalist usually works for someone else. Yeah,
to some extent that's true, but still the point is that citizens who work for themselves are actually fully functioning individuals and therefore could not be made to be put under a tyrannical control, especially if they realize that thinking is required for survival, and therefore under those conditions they're willing to fight.
Well, definitely. Well, he pointed that out. See, if a citizen is faced with overwhelming odds, he can adapt. But if a barbarian is faced with overwhelming odds, he'll go down fighting.
Mm-hmm.
I know I would.
Yeah, well, citizens would do the same thing too. Look what happened in the Revolutionary War and the Civil War.
Well, they all hope they'd get out alive. It's the barbarian who doesn't really give a damn. There's a good fight going, boy.
Yeah, well, some people are like that, but my point in bringing this up is that there's an element in your argument that claims that citizens have to be adaptable to be able to work under situations where government control gets excessive, and that's where we differ.
Well, why don't you tune in tomorrow for my rebuttal to his... See, as far as I'm concerned, he did a very good study on it, but he was talking from the citizen's viewpoint, and I'd like to give it to you from the barbarian's viewpoint.
Well, okay, because I'm coming from John Galt and Atlas Shrugged.
Well, I usually come from John Galt and Atlas Shrugged, too, because I'm an Ayn Rand objectivist.
Mm-hmm. As am I, and that's why I called in to point these things out to you.
Well, okay, why not wait until the whole series is over? Now, my rebuttal, you might say, well, my commentary on it and my differences with him is about twice as long, so I'll probably do half of it tomorrow night and the next half Friday night, and I think
listen to what happens then.
It's in volume 3 of the Poor Man's James Bond, incidentally.
Okay.
And a lot of people liked it.
Okay. Well, I'll listen to it.
It's a good thought piece. See, it stimulates you. You want to argue? Fine, great.
Yeah. Well, I'll listen to what you have to say tomorrow night, Friday.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for calling. Bye for now. Okay. The phone number again is 501-437-2963. The mailing address for the packet and all of my other works is P.O. Box 95, Alpena, Arkansas, 72611. Send in $10 and you'll get a great packet that'll really keep you fascinated for hours, and also you get $5 refund on any subscription. Hello, Kurt Saxon here.
Yes, I wasn't going to call, but I heard your previous caller talking about the barbaric tendencies of the early inhabitants of Europe.
Yes.
I thought I would add this to you. Julius Caesar said in 45 B.C. that the inhabitants of Europe were highly advanced in civilization and in dress and in architectural ability. Now, there's a bit of suppressed history, been greatly suppressed through the decades, by the secular institutions regarding the early inhabitants of Britannia and Western Europe. And that history says that instead of being barbarians and savages per se, that they were indeed highly advanced. In fact, the Romans ceased and desisted any further invasions of Britannia after 9 A.D.
With Hadrian's Wall.
Yes, that's right. So the inhabitants of Europe were not just barbarians.
Well, now, I don't think he meant all the inhabitants of Europe. And also, when he mentions the Vikings, now, they were barbarians when they were in the field. But when they were at home, they were citizens. They were far advanced.
Well, according to what the media propagates,
yes,
Saxon, they were. But you have to remember that the Mongols of Hollywood have propagated this information.
Well, we're going to straighten them out, aren't we? Now, you see,
history.
The Goths and Vandals, they were, however, nomadic. And
nomadic and barbaric may not necessarily be the same.
Not necessarily the same, but you cut a pretty thin line because they have no fixed abode, and they're predators. But that doesn't mean that they're not nice guys.
There's some volumes out that really give the true picture of early Western Europe. Prehistoric London is one, by a gentleman, name who escapes me right off the bat, but Stonehenge and, the Druid priest that are claimed to be one thing and that they really weren't. They were worshippers of a triune Godhead. These are facts, and yet the information that we've received about these peoples is 180 degrees, been propagandized in the opposite direction.
Well, of course, but that's showbiz.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to correct that, and I appreciate you accepting my call.
Anytime. Thank you very much. Bye-bye. Okay, the phone number is 501-437-2963. The mailing address is P.O. Box 95, Alpena, Arkansas, 72611. For the $10 packet with a $5 refund, I need a subscription. Hello, Kurt Saxon here.
Good evening, Kurt. Welcome back.
Well, thank you.
This is John in Massachusetts.
Hi, John.
I just caught a little bit of last night's presentation, and I have some additional information on the book that deals with building your own laser phaser.
Yes?
Your compatriot probably recognizes that I can give you a 800 number for Tab Books.
Okay.
It's actually Tab McGraw-Hill.
Yes.
And the zip code that was given...
Well, if you got an 800 number, that's even better, because then people call up and they'll send them a catalog or tell them on their time.
Well, I called them today, and I can give you a hardcover and a softcover price.
Well, why not just give the number?
Okay. It's 1-800-233-1128.
Okay, give it again if you don't mind.
1-800-233-1128.
Good. So they'll call that number and they'll get that book.
That's right.
Hardcover or soft.
They give you a different number for people who live in Pennsylvania or Alaska, if you can believe that.
Well, come on, we can't go that far. I mean, I like to give numbers and stuff like that, help somebody, well, mainly to help my listeners get certain things they might like to do, but I'm not really promoting any company, so we'll just limit it to this one for this time.
No, what I mean is the phone number is different evidently for residents in Pennsylvania and Alaska.
Well, okay, then I'm just sorry for those poor devils. They're just going to have to decline.
Right, and the zip code that was given should be 17294.
Yeah.
It was given last night, I think, as 17214.
Well, the postman will probably deliver it at the right place. I find that's not too much trouble, really.
I hope so. And then one other item, there was another caller talking about UFOs.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought I might indicate to you the existence of a video, 74-minute video on UFOs. It's called UFOs, The Hidden Truth.
Yes.
It comes out, may I give the name and address of...
Okay, do it quick. Hope it's simple.
It comes from New Liberty Videos, Post Office Box 25662.
P.O. Box 25662.
Shawnee Mission, Kansas.
Shawnee Mission, Kansas.
66225.
66225. And how much postpaid or whatever, the whole price?
Oh, I can't tell you exactly. It's probably $20.
Well, you see, now that sort of messes it up because people don't like to get cards and letters asking how much a tape is.
Well, I can give you a telephone number for them.
Well, okay, that you should have done that in the first place. You'll learn how to do this. We'll get things worked out.
Well, you're the expert.
Okay, give me the phone number then.
It's area code 913.
913.
681.
681.
1080.
1080. Okay, you people call now. I suppose it's the people who put out the tape go along with the idea that there's a possibility of life in outer space.
Well, I tell you, there are two. It depends what your worldview is.
Well, I mean, there's either flying saucers or they're not, regardless of what I might think.
Oh, but the question is, what are they? If you're a Christian, you probably believe that they're demonically activated.
Yes.
If you're an atheist, you may prescribe a view that, gee, there's so many stars out there, there must be other planets, and it may be visitors from outer space.
I don't see why that should... I mean, a lot of Christians believe in flying saucers, and a lot of atheists believe in flying saucers, and just the opposite.
Okay, well, I would subscribe to the view that it's probably demonic activity.
Yes, well, that would be interesting.
Well, the video probably covers both sides of the issue, and your listeners would be happy to see it. And
okay. Did you see it?
I have not seen it. I have it in my hands, but...
well, why don't you listen to it? Well, why don't you watch it and call us again?
All right.
Tell us what you saw. See, this way you tell us what you saw, and maybe we can look out the window and see something like it.
Okay, I'll do that.
Okay, buddy.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Okay, the phone number again is 501-437-2963. The mailing address is P.O. Box 95, Alpena, Arkansas, 72611. Hello, Kurt Saxon here.
Hi, Kurt.
Good.
I just received your package, and I was very impressed.
Did you like it?
I do. I like it very much. I'm planning on ordering some of the books.
Okay.
And I was wondering on the packet with David Koresh.
Yes.
The back it says to receive the most shocking video. Is that probably one of the best videos they have on Waco?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, on the back cover there's a Waco, the video.
Not on the one I've got in my hand.
The Decoded Message? Seal of the Seven, the Book of Revelation by David Koresh.
Oh, yes. Okay. To receive the most news for... Oh, that's probably...
I see it's a different...
Yeah, it was on the last page, not the back of the thing there. Yes. Well, I don't know. I think that videotape is that one that I don't care for. Of course.
I know there's several out there. I was wondering.
Yes. Well, you see, Stuart, this is his book. He published it. He talked to David's mother, and he
I understand,
feels differently about it than I do. But you see, he's a friend of mine.
Yeah.
And I don't require that my friends agree with me.
So you can't really recommend?
No, I can't recommend it. I'm not going to put it down. If I was sure that it was the other one that I saw and didn't like, I would say it's garbage, but I'm not sure.
This isn't the one that lady put out.
I don't think so. Okay. I hope not.
Yeah, because no, I found the information very useful.
Yeah.
Ordering the Grandfather's Chemistry.
Mm-hmm.
And a couple of the James Bond's books.
Yes.
Before me and James Bond, and I enjoyed the Invasion of the Martians.
Yes.
It was a good story and everything.
That's about Clarence.
Yeah.
You think Clarence is okay?
Yeah, I think so.
And well, keep talking for a couple of minutes, and so
yeah,
you can be our last dialer because we don't have time enough to. We got about...
U.S. militia, I found a couple interesting things in there.
Yeah.
Anthropause was good.
The which?
I think it's the Anthropause, or there was another booklet. It was a small booklet besides U.S. militia. U.S.
Oh, you mean Shoestring Entrepreneur?
Yeah, that was. They had some neat stuff in there.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how you could say Anthropage.
I don't have it in front of me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I couldn't think of a better name for it. See, an entrepreneur is one who starts his own business, and see, that's what I'm trying to promote, because I started my own business a long time ago, and there's no going back. I mean, once you're making money for yourself, then you don't have to work for someone you don't like at a job that you don't like, and you work on your own time. And barbarians be much easier having a business of their own rather than robbing people.
You could even start your own business on the side, and when it picks up, you could lose your, you could give up your full-time employment and take over your own business.
Yeah, well, by that time, you'd probably be fired anyway. I had over 40 jobs in my career.
In the U.S. militia, I like the Super Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah, Super Jiu-Jitsu, yes.
Yeah, that was good. Me and a friend of mine read through that and went through the steps and everything.
Well, you see, those line drawings are a lot better than photographs.
Yeah, but it seems accurate. We were trying them out and everything.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of it is just speed.
Yes, well, you develop that.
Yeah, you can't just sit there and, wait, you got to do it, And we were doing it, but we both knew what we were going to do. If the other person didn't know, I could see how accurate that'd be.
Yes.
The Southern Cavalry.
Southern Cavalry.
That was good.
Yes. No, Southern Chivalry.
Yeah.
Yeah, we see, now that article is from a Yankee newspaper telling about how bad the Confederates were. Of course, it's probably all true.
Yeah.
But you see, the Yankees, the Southerners could write just the same thing about them, but the only one I got is the Harper's Weekly, which is a Yankee paper.
Yeah, it was, it said 1863, February 7th. I enjoyed it very much. I'm thinking about subscribing to the U.S. militia.
Well, if you subscribe, then you'll get the first 3 issues, and probably, well, within a couple of weeks, I hope to have issue 4 out. See, when you subscribe, you get all of the back issues, and then you get the rest as they come out. And, of course, you would have a double of the one that I got you, so you could give it to your friend.
Yeah. And it took me maybe about a month. But I think we've been having bad weather and everything. I think that may have been having to do something.
Well, I think the weather has held up everything.
Yeah.
And but hopefully it's going to level off until the next thing happens.
Yeah, but I enjoyed it very much.
Well, I'm glad. What do you do?
I'm a printer.
A printer, good.
Yeah. I've been printing for the last 10 years.
Yes. Well, okay, so you've got your job.
Yeah, I got my job, and I could always, if I lose my job, everybody always needs a printer.
Okay, well, that's about it for now.
Yeah,
thanks for calling. Bye-bye. Now it's sign-off time. I'll talk to you tomorrow. So this is Kurt Saxon saying goodbye and be good.